Here's the thing I want to say to everyone listening. You already have a brand, whether you like it or not. You've got one. My brand is I'm the Connector. They all know that Alice Heiman knows more people on this earth, right, than anyone, or at least that's what they think. That is my brand. That's my brand. I got that whether I wanted it or not, because it's just who I am. So when you say authentic, really, I think all that means is that's who I am, right?
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Pass the Pitch podcast. And I'm happy to have Alice Heiman here today. Alice is a chief sales energizer, which is a perfect title and description. She is internationally known for her expertise in evaluating sales to increase valuation for companies with a B2B sale that have exceptional growth potential. Originally from the widely known Miller Heiman Group, Heiman and her team have incorporated the newest research and best practices to provide sales programs that generate immediate and sustainable results. When I was preparing for this discussion, Alice, I was doing a little bit of research, and what I loved and what stuck with me was your direct and simple message where you talk about CEOs just want to know what can be done so that their sales team can deliver the numbers, plain and simple. They want to know what can be done to improve sales using AI and the human touch in the changing environment we live in today. Also, I enjoyed the quote that I saw in Forbes.com where it talks about that Alice Heiman is a diligent student and a teacher of what works. She is among the world's leading experts on the complex sale. So welcome, Alice, to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
Oh my God, with pleasure. I could have went on and on and on, but I just really wanted to focus in on some of the key highlights. The one place I like to start, Alice, I always like to kind of start the foundation around leadership and leadership lessons because it's so impactful to so many people as far as when you look at their careers. So what's the most unexpected leadership lesson you've learned, and how has it shaped the way you guide your team or organization today?
You know, I mean, I, like you, have learned so many lessons along the way, but I think the biggest one and the one that I continue to teach is the only person I can change is myself. Because so many times when I get into an organization, the leaders are telling me all about what everyone else is doing and how it's not working and what's going on and their behavior. And I listen and I think, yep, that's probably all true. And usually it leads right back to the leader and ultimately to the CEO, because these are the people who are allowing all of this to go on. So if I remember that the only person I can change is myself, and then I can say to myself, I will no longer allow this to go on. That's changing me, not anyone else. And then I determine how that's going to happen. And what's amazing to me is that when you change something about yourself and others see that, those around you will also change or perhaps rebel so hard that they'll self-select out.
Right. And that's such a valuable lesson. I think that's a precious takeaway for the audience is, start with yourself first. It sounds so simple, so direct, so straightforward, but I'm sure you encounter plenty of times that you're working with organizations and CEOs in particular are looking for that magic bullet, right? How am I going to make change? Oh, you know what? We're approaching the fourth quarter. We want to make sure that we start 2026 in tip-top shape, or we're in the middle of 2026 and we say, okay, we got to make sure that we end the year the right way. And there is no silver magic potion, bullet, whatever you want to call it. It takes about putting in the hard work, like you said, and really looking at yourself first.
Yeah. And worse, right? When we're in a panic about fourth quarter or what's going to happen first quarter, which, hey, you should be panicking about first quarter now. Fourth quarter's over, right? You better be looking at first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Now's the time. But that panic, because we didn't make the changes we needed to earlier on, we weren't focused for whatever reason, but that panic causes really bad behavior in sales,
Oh, it does.
right? And I mean, what do? We start going, what is it going to take to close that deal? Do whatever it takes, lower the price, give them a discount. I mean, crazy, crazy.
I know. I know. And then you're setting the wrong precedents, right? Going forward, if you lower the price or you change the constructs. And how many times do we see CEOs where if one of the messages you give back to the organization, which often is something that I'll talk about, is okay, if you want to have that type of growth, we really need to look at how do you stabilize the current salespeople and get them more effective and more efficient. But then how do you add on more salespeople? But if you're talking to somebody in the middle of the year, the question that I get asked a lot is, well, I'm not going to see the benefit of them this year, so I'm going to wait till next year. As right? Right? As opposed to saying, well, no, if I hire them this year, I'm gonna really start off great the following year.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I've been working a lot with the leaders that I'm currently engaged with on capacity. And they want to hire more salespeople. However, their current salespeople are not at capacity. So first we have to understand what is capacity, right? And once we know what that is, how do we get our salespeople to capacity? But there really is no sense in bringing on more sales team members when the ones you have are not at capacity and you can't generate enough leads for the salespeople that you have. Now, understanding that in startups and early stage companies, or when something new is going on, like opening a new market, sometimes you have to get a little bit ahead of that. And or if you're, in startups doing a land grab, you just need a lot of people to do that. But that's not sustainable because salespeople need to be at capacity. We need A players and we need them to be at capacity if we want our companies to thrive.
Excellent point. Let's kind of shift a little bit and talk about adaptability in business. What's one time you or your team had to pivot quickly and made what the shift was either successful or not successful? Because I think there's always valuable lessons when something is not successful. What's your advice for thriving in unpredictable times, which I think we could all agree we're in unpredictable
Yeah.
times?
Anyone who's lived as long as you and I have pivoted many times.
All right, hang on a second. I'm not sure I want to admit to that.
I'm not calling you old, Anna. I'm just saying. But right? I mean, you can't
Yeah,
get this far in business and not having pivoted, right?
right.
And I would say there's just so many different times. I'll give a couple of examples. I mean, early on in my business, when I left Miller Heiman, started my own company, a couple of years later, I got ill and I couldn't travel. Now, my whole world was traveling, right? I mean, the way we conducted the Miller Heiman courses is you fly in, you train for 2 days, you fly out. You do that 3 or 4 times a month. It was a lot, right?
Mhm.
I couldn't even travel by car, uh, let alone an airplane. So now I've left Miller Heiman. I've started my own company. By the way, we sold Miller Heiman. That's why I left. There were new owners and just, wasn't a fit anymore. And I went on to do my own thing.
Hmm.
And the first year I left, I did remarkably well, had my best year ever. And then bam, I get this illness. So I couldn't fly and none of my clients were in Reno, Nevada. So I had to pivot and figure out how to get some clients here. Now I could drive short distances, but not very far. And even when I did, I was in excruciating pain. And that whole time that I was working, I was in excruciating pain. So I had to work around that. So the pivot was, how do I find clients in Reno, Nevada? And they were not my ideal customer because I didn't have a choice at this point. I needed income for my family, and I had to figure out how to make it work. So I stayed with business owners, right? But they weren't necessarily in tech. There's not a lot of tech here that's more mature, which is who I was working with, more mature tech companies. But I found some really amazing business owners who needed my help, couldn't charge as much either because it's a different economy and everything here. And these smaller companies weren't used to paying big city prices. So I had to pivot and make it work. And I did. So that was one of the first big pivots I had to make in my career. And that was in late 90s, early 2000s. But then there was another big pivot I made. I started down this path of growing a big company and thinking about hiring other people who could do what I do, right? I was thinking, okay, I can find other people who have similar experiences. I can train them and I can get them to do what I do so that because I'm really good at selling, I can go out and sell more and I'll have other people to deliver. Well, that didn't work. So I, first of all, didn't like managing people and having all these people to manage. And secondly, it was a bigger burden than I thought to have a team that was supposed to be selling also, but mostly they were just waiting for me to sell and they could deliver. And so I figured that out. It took me a little bit. And then I just said, that's it. Not going to do that anymore. And I reformed my business in a different way so that I could generate more revenue, more profitably, but not have any employees, believe it or not. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have a team. I have a great team. I have a chief of staff. I have a finance team. I have a marketing team, and I have a podcast team. They're all outsourced. These are people who are entrepreneurs and run their own business and want to take care of me, and I don't have to chase them around. So that was a big pivot for me as well. I'm about to make another big pivot, Anna, and I'm almost afraid to say it out loud here. But if you want me to, I will. I am moving into another direction. So in the last 10 to 15 years, I've narrowed my niche, which really scares the heck out of some people. But basically, I work with tech CEOs who have business-to-business complex sale, who are at least 10 years in business and 10 million in revenues. That's very specific, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's some broad range up there because I work with companies, that are 20, 30, 80 million as well. But I'm just saying, like, that's the base and it's very specific. Now I'm going to narrow to even further to work with female tech CEOs. And I have a huge passion around doing this. And so I'm just letting the universe guide me on this one because I really believe that this niche needs to be filled.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love that for many, many reasons. And you and I need to have a follow-up conversation in regards to, I belong to a group, we call ourselves the Lady Leaders. There's 15 of us. We wrote a book a couple of years ago called Together We Rise, and it's all about lifting women up around us and how can we provide that level of coaching and mentorship. And then we're getting ready to do the official launch of our second book called Rising Through Courage. But I'll be happy to share both of those books.
Yes.
So you can add them to your background there.
My resource list. That'd be great. I'm collecting tons and tons of resources.
Exactly. No, but you talk about such significant pivots. And I think, see, that's the wonderful thing. I mean, a little bit about what you were saying, people that have been in the business as long as we've had to pivot a bunch of times. And that's, I think, the message I want to give to Gen Zers out there, or even Gen Y or Gen X, in the sense that this is reality, right? Economic times shift. The pendulum swings in opposite direction, and you need to be creative in figuring out how do you sell in this market and how do you shift who you want to be, right? What you want to do for a living going forward. And I think it's that creativity. My goodness, Alice, you've shared some incredible stories, some of them because forced upon you based on your medical challenge, but others in being, creative and truly that entrepreneurial in spirit.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to try things, that's for sure. And yeah, sometimes there's a force driving you that you have no control over. So you better figure it out or you're going to be out of business, right? But I think always if we, center ourselves and really think about and feel, right? What's right? What can I do? What's next? Then we can come up with something that's going to work. I'm not going to say right answer because there is no right answer, right? But
Exactly.
come up with something that is going to work for us. And especially, Anna, when we stay in our genius zone and do what we do best and love most, right? That intersection of I do this best and I love it most. Because there's a lot of things I do really, really well. And I might even do them best, but I don't love doing them, right?
Right,
And as a
right.
CEO, if you get stuck in that trap, it's really bad. So find the space where you're doing what you love the most and you do it the best and find other people to do everything else.
Agreed. Oh my goodness, you're speaking my language, because that's exactly why I started AFM Strategic Partners, was because I wanted to focus on what I love to do and what
Yeah.
I do best versus getting pulled into some of the other operational components, which I can do. But to your point, it's not something that I enjoy doing. Let me ask you about, personal branding. Obviously, with the name like Hyman, I mean, that goes a long way. I think when you and I first spoke, I was like, oh my goodness, blue sheeting, one of my most favorite sales tools, and methodologies. Even to this day, I think it's ironclad.
Oh, yeah, we do blue sheets all the time. I don't want people to think that's old methodology. It might have been invented quite a while ago, but those blue sheets work, and my clients use them. I know lots of people still using them. I use them, and the green sheets as well. The call planning tool, that's even
Yes.
more important today than ever. But yeah, that methodology still works, Anna.
Exactly, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about how do you balance staying authentic while building your personal or organizational brand? What's one thing you think people get wrong about this?
Well, yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing because everybody's talking about it all the time. Personal brand, authenticity, do this, don't do that. It's all over LinkedIn. The whole thing is pretty crazy. But here's the deal, right? I got a little boost because I got a name that people know in the sales world. But that only took me so far, right? And even today, so many people have no idea what my connection is with Miller Heiman or that Steve Hyman is my dad. But uh, so, I mean, it doesn't even help me sometimes, especially young people. They have no idea because, Miller Heiman is owned by Korn Ferry now, and they don't even like you hardly ever hear of it anymore unless somebody says, "Oh, I took that way back in the day," or "I was at this company when I took that," right? So a lot of young people don't even know. So I can't rely on that, right? I can't just, oh, well, that name will carry me because it does not, right? I had to build my own brand. And here's the thing I want to say to everyone listening. You already have a brand, whether you like it or not. You've got one. In my family, what is my family brand? I'm the bossy big sister. That's my brand. That's what everybody knows. They also know I'm pretty funny and silly, right? But I'm bossy. So they know that that is my brand in my family, right? With my friends, what is my brand? My brand is I am the connector. They all know that Alice Heiman knows more people on this earth, right, than anyone, or at least that's what they think. That is my brand. Oh, call Alice. She'll know, right? She'll know who to connect you to. She'll be able to introduce you. Great. That's my brand. I got that whether I wanted it or not, because it's just who I am. So when you say authentic, really, I think all that means is that's who I am, right? I can't help myself. I'm a connector. It's just who I am. I'm an entrepreneur. I definitely can't help myself, right? That's who I am. So you've already got a brand. And I think the challenge comes when you're trying to express that brand in a situation where it's different or uncomfortable. In my house with my family, everybody here, for example, at Thanksgiving or whatever, I don't have to worry about how I express my brand. It's just what I'm doing. It's who I am. So I'm not thinking about it. But all of a sudden, when we stand on a stage, get on a webinar, we're on a panel, or we're trying to express ourselves on LinkedIn, we're like, what should I do? Right? But no, it's just, this is who I am. Now, if you're not a great writer, that's okay. We have AI now to help us, but just express the ideas that are you, the things you believe in, the things that you do, the stories that tell about who you are, the failures, the good stuff, the ideas that you have that you want to share. Like that's you, right? And so now you're just expressing it through a media that you're not used to or comfortable with. And you simply just need to get comfortable with it because leaders need to be on LinkedIn these days. And they'll tell me, oh, we don't get business that way. Our customers on there. I get a million excuses. I'm like, well, the customers who are on there see your absence. And if your competitors are on there, they're seeing your competitors and not you. So you don't even know what you're missing by not being there. And it's really simple to be out there. Get on a podcast and talk about the things you know best. Be on a panel and talk about the things you know best. Get on LinkedIn and talk about the things that you know best.
It's so true. And again, and this is one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you simplify it down to the core of what it really means. I agree. There is so much focus on, developing your personal brand and your authentic self and making sure that you show vulnerability because that's key to a successful leader, as opposed to really showing the shoe colors of who you really are. So great takeaways there, Alice. I appreciate your candor in that space.
Yeah. And I just want to say one more thing about it. It's like online, I want you to know who I am because I don't want to work with someone who doesn't know or appreciate who I am. I'm not for everybody. So you see me, pictures of me, you see the things I write, and the variety of things. And if that's not for you, that's okay. Find somebody who is for you, right?
Right.
So by me expressing me online or on this podcast, you get to see, oh, that's someone I might like to work with, or oh, I don't think I would like to work with her. And that's fantastic. That's what we want.
Right. And especially in what we do for a living, where you talk about the art of sales and the complex sale, a lot of it is based on, relationship and establishing that camaraderie, that effective way of communicating, connecting with people. And if you're not connected, then the person on the receiving end is not going to receive the information you're sharing. And vice versa, you're not going to be, as I know myself personally, not as motivated to work with that person because you're not connecting.
That's right. That connection is so important. And it's part of the problem we have in sales today, Anna, in my opinion. These salespeople are connected to no one, right? They don't have connections at the level that they need to have them in order to do business with people or get referrals from people. Because they, even in a complex sale where they shouldn't be transactional, they are very transactional and they're not spending the time to build these important relationships, the connection that makes people want to talk to you, makes people want to help you, makes people want to introduce you.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so now let me ask you about the customer experience and relationships, which is, I think, a great way to kind of close out this part of the session. What's your secret sauce for creating unforgettable customer experiences? And maybe you could share a time when going above and beyond made all the difference.
I love this question. And just coincidentally, recently I got to see Will Guidara, the author of Unreasonable Hospitality. Now, if you haven't read that book, right, Anna, they should all read it.
Exactly. Great book.
So good. Doesn't matter what business you're in. The creativity from that book will help you think of things that you could do for your own customers. So I just wrote about this on LinkedIn lately. I'm going to write some more about it. How do we delight our customers? Well, it's not really that hard, right? Because so many companies are settled with satisfied. Well, they're satisfied. We delivered what they bought. Okay, got it. But in this economy, satisfied is just not going to cut it, because that's not going to help you with retention necessarily. You've got to go beyond satisfaction. And, people are always looking around at the next shiny object. So we've really got to be careful with satisfied. And just merely satisfied is not going to get us necessarily more business or the referrals that we might want from a customer, right? So we really need to think about delighting our customers, and what does that mean? And I'm going to say this, for every business, that is going to be different. Doing an exceptional job, though, is number one. And if you don't do that, it doesn't matter what else you do. It doesn't matter if you send gifts or you fly there to see them or you make introductions. If you don't do an exceptional job so that they're delighted, right, with what you sold them, they can use it. There's user adoption. It's working well. You're supporting them well. If you don't get that, you got nothing. So it has to start there. When you think of delighting your customers, number one is, are we delivering what we said we would deliver in the best way humanly possible? Can they use what we sold them successfully? And is there user adoption? Check all those boxes first. Fantastic. Now, how do we even go beyond that, right? To show them that, yes, of course, we're always going to do an exceptional job for them, but that we really care and that we love them, right? So some of the things you can do, and that I have done, is write a note from the CEO to the highest levels, complimenting the people that your team works with. Who doesn't love a compliment? Who doesn't love to get a handwritten note in the mail? So that will surprise them, to get a handwritten note from your CEO, and then to hear the compliments. That will be delightful. That's a simple thing that I do that anyone could do that would delight someone, right?
Right,
Other
right.
fun things too. You can have an event, you can hold a dinner. But again, none of this is worth anything if you don't have that base of them being delighted with what they bought, using it, having the service that they need, having the user adoption. Forget it. Work on that first. Make sure that they are delighted with what you sold them.
Oh, and I love that, because you also remind me of, I had mentioned the lady leaders at the beginning
Yeah.
of this conversation. One of them is Joyce Russell, who ran the Adecco Group for a while. Now
Oh.
she's been running the foundation for the Adecco Group. But a few years ago, she wrote, actually in March of 2020, she had already released her book, Cherry on Top. And it's exactly about that ultimate customer service experience that you can give an individual. It's a great book. It's a great read. It's a quick read. But she talks about, like, how do you go over and beyond? And the reason why I mentioned 2020 is because we came together because we thought we were going to be going to a group dinner at SIA in 2020. But obviously that got shut down because of COVID. So we wound up starting a Zoom club and a book club where we were able to get together on a monthly basis and talk about stuff. But that's what it reminds me. I mean, it's simple ways of being able to kind of go over and beyond. Alice, great insight on all of these, but we're not done yet. I want to have a little bit of fun with you here, and we're going to do rapid fire some questions and say the first thing that comes to your mind. So it's meant to be fun. So let's start with, what's one small habit or routine that keeps you grounded during a chaotic work week?
My coffee. I do a pour over every morning. I have a little Chemex. I grind my beans. I put the filter in, get it wet, pour the coffee in, and like it can just take me down and keep me grounded. I love it.
Oh my God. So that's great. Making your own coffee like that. That's perfect. Okay. If you could teleport to one place for a quick brainstorming session, where would it be?
Horta in the Azores.
Oh, interesting. Love that. Okay. If you had to name your personal business anthem, what would it be?
Do you mean like a song?
Yeah, a song, or it could be like a quote that you live by, whichever.
Gosh, I mean, I guess I would just say, make life better for everyone every day that you can.
That's great. Simple, but to the point. Okay. What's the quirkiest productivity hack you swear by?
Oh my gosh. Quirky productivity hack. Yeah, I mean, my productivity hack is give it to my chief of staff to figure out.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we want to meet the chief of staff. That's awesome. Okay. I love that. Okay. Last question. Describe your leadership style in 3 emojis.
Oh my
explain them.
gosh, my leadership
yeah.
style. A smiling emoji, a construction emoji for building it, and a star for excellence.
That's fantastic. Well, all of those are great. I had one question in one of the previous seasons where I talked about if you had to describe yourself as a type of food, what would it be? Oh my, the answers I got that I'm actually tempted to splice all of those together
Yeah,
and
you
create a
definitely
little funny
should.
video about that. Yes, exactly. Alice, thank you so much. Truly wonderful to have you on the show today, and appreciate all your insights and look forward to staying connected and possibly having you back.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. Have a really wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. In our next episode, we talk to Thomas Kosnick about active listening, time blocking your week, and knowing when to call it quits. See you then.